Hey guys, my name is Franco Aroti, the Operations Officer here at Woodcats International. Here at Woodcats, our core business is manufacture and repair of wooden pallets. During this process, we generate waste. We at Woodcats have found a way how to use this waste and create these three amazing products. Our first product that we'll be talking about today, and probably our most well-known, is our landscape mulch, distributed under the Summerland brand. We have landscape mulch available in three colors: the natural color, the black color, and the most popular, vivid red. Now you may ask, what can mulch be used for? Mulch can be used for moisture retention, improve soil fertility, and reduce weed growth. It also gives the garden a pop. This is just one of the amazing products we make here at Woodcats. Our next product that we create from waste is sawdust. Then you might say, sawdust, is that a product? What is it used for? To answer that question, I have to throw you the three different grades of sawdust. Come with me. First, we have the fine dust. The fine dust is merely used for packaging purposes. For example, the yam farmers use it for exporting purpose. Then we have the wood shavings. This is mainly used by the chicken coop farmers. And then we have the rough dust, what we call the rough sawdust, used by the horse stables, for example. We have recently invested into machines that will help us to create these three grades of sawdust more efficiently. That's how we at Woodcats turn sawdust into a product. The last product we're going to talk about is our engineered wood products, ranging from as small as a coaster to something like a planter box and everything in between. This product line has the widest variety, and I'm sure that there's something here at Woodcats for you. And there you have it. These are the three ways we turn waste to revenue at Woodcats.
And welcome. Welcome to the company and broker Q&A session for Woodcats International, the IPO to kick off January, kickoff 2026. So it is my pleasure to be your host and moderator today. I am Renee McDonald, CEO of Learn, Grow, Invest, and your investor relations lead. With me today, I have the general manager of Woodcats International. By now, you must know his face and know his name. He is Peter Douglas. Join me in welcoming Peter to the platform. And also, we have with us Mr. Ian Kelly, who you may know as well, from several circles, but today he's with us in the capacity of CEO of Derrimon Trading. And finally, we have Alex Johnson with us from NCB Cap Markets. And Alex is the face of NCB IPOs, right? And he is actually proper title, the manager of origination and structuring at NCB Cap Markets. So these gentlemen will be here with me today to answer your questions about the Woodcats IPO. We have been going through a full week of content and information sessions and investor briefings, and a lot has been happening, telling us more and more about Woodcats and why it is a good offer to get into. The offer opens on February 2nd. That's Monday. It's one business day away, guys. It opens officially on Monday, but is already pre-opened on the NCB Go IPO platform, which means you are able to apply now, whether you have an NCB Cap Markets account or you have a brokerage account with another broker. So with that being said, I would love to give Peter Douglas an opportunity to tell us a little bit about Woodcats. We have questions upon questions to ask. But before that, I love to hear a good story about a good company. So I'd love to hear from Peter a little bit about Woodcats. Like, where did the name come from? What does it mean? So Peter, it is over to you to kick us off today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. It's a quite interesting name. Oftentimes, I'm on the street, people would stop me and ask me, what kind of name is that? What does it mean? And even the lady sometimes with a little funny grin. But it's always a pleasure for me to explain what the name means because it means so much to a family. The family that created this small company then that is basically heading to be one of Jamaica's great giant company. Right. So the name, of course, it's wood. Wood is what we do. We are synonymous with wood. But the cats, how did the cats come about? How did the cats get into the wood? Well, as I said, it's a family business. So the C is for the creator of the business, Christopher Collins. So C is for Chris, as in Christopher. A is for his wife, Andreen. T is for the daughter, Tracy. And S is for the son, Stephen. So that's how you get the cats in the wood.
That is awesome to hear. Thank
Right.
you for sharing that. So we have been we have been going through the prospectus, and there is a lot to go through with that. And on this very channel, we would have done a prospectus review just 2 days ago. And coming out of that, we had a few questions. So we're going to kick off with the operational kind of questions, right? And I would ask Mr. Kelly to jump in here because the very first question is, since Derrimon acquired the company, what has the working relationship been like? What is that org structure? How does it work? How much control does Derrimon have? Because as we know, Derrimon is also a listed company and there is interest from that aspect as well.
So, thank you for having me and the other members of the team today. The fact is, governance is an integral and a very major part of Derriman's DNA and how we operate. Over the years, we would have done many acquisitions, and each acquisition we have done would have independently has different boards. So, if you look on the governance structure of Woodcats or even Caribbean flavors, you would recognize that the board has its own composition. There are maybe one or two persons that are on the board that crossed over to other boards within the group. You look at Woodcats, the board directors external would have been Earl Richards, who served as an executive, a non-executive director of Derrimon and the chairman of the audit committee. But Nicole Berger, Patrick Mignot, Carlton Samuels, who serves on Caribbean Flavors boards, and Jermaine is
Right.
also Jermaine Borrell is also an external director. So the composition would have been 5 external directors and two non-executive with Peter and myself, which means that even within the group's committees, every single committee has a majority of external directors and with little or no overlapping. With the day-to-day operations, what we would have done is that the group business plan incorporates that which is done by its subsidiaries, and all that we do as an executive team within Derman is to manage the daily performance as per the mandate of the respective boards. What we brought to the table when we bought Woodcats would have been structure, governance, expertise, improvement in risk framework, and that many of those factors would help for you to see the company that you saw in Woodcats today. we expect the levels of independence to continue and even more, given that now post IPO it will be a listed company, and so there are specific rules of the Jamaica Stock Exchange and the Financial Services Commission. But from where we sit, the basics or the major basics would have already been established and have been operationalized, so that post IPO it will be a better oiled machinery in terms of doing the thing that it must do from a governance framework.
Right. Thank you so much for that, because you would have touched on one of the truths that we have learned. You would have touched on one of the truths. Are you hearing me now? No? Are you hearing Mr. Kelly? Okay. All right. So he's not hearing, it seems. So we will press on. One of the things that he would have touched on is the importance of the governance structure as the company is preparing to go public. And Alex, I actually wanted to have you chime in a bit here as lead broker. What are some of the things that you have to work through with a company? We understand, being in this space, we do understand that companies transitioning from a family business to a publicly owned or a publicly listed company, it can be a little demanding on the changes of the within the governance structure. So can you share a little bit about what that takes and what that looks like to prepare a company, or this company, Woodcats in particular, to go public?
Okay, Renee, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listeners as well. Thanks for having me on your channel. So the truth is, Renee, Woodcats was a very easy company to do our due diligence on. So typically we would have issues in terms of the governance and reorganizing the board, going through the audits, ensuring that the financials are properly audited, and ensuring that the requisite representation in terms of the management team is there. But the truth is, for Woodcats, the board and the leadership team is part of a wider group, the Derman Group, and they would have done 3 public equity offers in the past. So
Right.
They are very experienced and equipped in terms of what it takes to take a company public. I even recall when I first went there, and Ian was sharing with me all the information and all the different governance items that he had in place. I was pretty surprised because they were ready that same moment that I went there to learn about the company. So the boards were set up, the committees were determined as well. The different professional advisors were on board as well. So writing the prospectus was pretty easy. Doing the calculations of the share split, agreeing on the price and the different items that we need was pretty easy. Even the process of going to the stock exchange and going to the Financial Services Commission, even that aspect of the transaction was pretty easy because all the necessary things were in place before going public. So it was a pretty easy process for us.
All right, that is encouraging, because good governance says a lot about companies as we go forward, and as we know, because we've seen what poor governance does. We love to see good governance in a publicly listed company. So Peter, I'm heading back over to you. Let's talk a little bit about the business model and the positioning of Woodcats. We know that you do pallets, and we saw in the video, in the introduction, all the in-between products that are made, the mulch and the sawdust and everything else that you guys are doing. But in terms of in terms of your products, your main products, tell us how important these pallets are to logistics and warehousing in Jamaica, and just that general ecosystem.
Okay, thank you much for the question. Pallets. Pallets is the quiet engine that runs the vehicle. It's quite unassuming. People just have it as some pieces of board. Early in my early days at Woodcats, a lot of persons didn't on the street didn't know what a pallet is, right? I think that has changed over time. A pallet simple runs all to most manufacturing business. Most lines can't run without a pallet, so there's no production on a line without pallet. Pallet is the end user on the production line. It takes it from the production line and either put it in storage on the racks, flat in the warehouse, and then it takes it from the warehouse to the streets for the customer, right? So pallet is essential. It takes it to the companies that do export. It's loaded in the container, and it provides for the movements of the goods abroad. So pallet is a critical component in the whole ecosystem. All right. So pallet, I would say almost no manufacturing business, food distributors, agricultural and construction to a lesser extent can run without a pallet or without the services of pallets.
Right.
So it's a critical component to the ecosystem.
Thank you for that. And I know in the prospectus, you would have mentioned that you are currently producing about 300,000 pallets annually. That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. What is the capacity? Does that mean that you are currently at capacity for pallet production and that's why you're seeking to expand, or is there more capacity now as the structure is, as the business is?
Right. There is definitely more capacity as the business is, but pallet can only grow if manufacturing and other sectors grow. So the pallet growth has to be in tandem with the growth of the economy, the manufacturing and other sectors. So we can't wait and all of that to grow our company, right? We pretty much are at a max with pallet now based on what the demand is. So we're seeking to grow our business through diversification mainly, while maintaining 100% of the pallet business that we have and continue to seek more. But we think that the growth that we're looking, we have to diversify to complement the pallet business.
All right. So I think that's a good segue into a question that we have here from Jamaica Politics TV. And by now, I'm sure you know the name, right? Yeah. So Jamaica Politics says new companies to the market always speak about diversification. What major project or projects do you have in the pipeline planning to carry out in the first 2 years?
All right, let me jump in here with Peter. Whilst Peter speak about pallets, we are more than pallets. There's wooden pallets, there's plastic pallets, there's garden mulch, there is planter boxes, there is outdoor furnishing, and there are other wood-related projects that we are pursuing at this point in time. The fact is, the more diversified our revenue stream is, the bigger and better we would be as a company. When we bought Woodcats, and I'll just go back a little, when we bought Woodcats in 2018, the revenue was just out about just under $300 million. It grew to just over $1 billion. And if you look on the different segments on the revenue chart, you would have seen that we would have been looking at options. Quite frankly, our strategy is about 1, new pallets, 2, repair pallets, 3, export pallets, 4, go deeper within the garden mulch business through different product lines, 4, what we're doing with our waste management in terms of providing material for farmers / agricultural exports, 5, looking into new markets to see how, given the logistics, how we are going to be position ourselves to enter into other markets within the Caribbean for pallets and other products to which we currently have and have capacity. And 5, to look at other byproducts within the wood industry where there's a demand within the country based on our analysis.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Jamaica politics, I hope that gives you some clarity around what the diversification looks like. And I would want to just follow up on that question about the capacity. What is the current capacity? Though you're doing 300,000 now, what does your current plant allow you to produce? When the business comes, how far can we go?
I think Peter should speak to it. That is not one plant, it's 2 plants.
All right, let me
Yes,
just
Marcus,
explain.
right?
All right, we operate out of 2 locations. The original location before it was sold to, before Derman bought, now operates as just a sawmill, right? So most of our assembly of pallets takes place at our Marcus Garvey Drive hub, right? The capacity is probably 3 times or more than what we do now, right? If it was just pallets that we were doing. So it's not a capacity issue. That is having us thinking about diversification, right? It's what the market is doing, right? As I said, demand for pallet is hinged on the demand from the customers, right? So in order for us to grow at the pace that we'd like to grow, we have to introduce all of these other products. So it's not a capacity issue why we're diversifying.
In fact, what we would have done, we would have put in the infrastructure though that we can scale our activities as demand increasing, and in scaling the activities, it will also move us from the point where we were mostly manual to the point where we want to get to, where will be a semi-mechanized process.
Awesome. Automation is the way to go, indeed, for efficiency and growth. So I am fully understanding that. And I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit and come right back, because I know we have been getting this question a lot. We've gotten it on pretty much every platform that we have, that we are on. And this one is for you, Alex. The question is, will JMMB be a selling agent? We have that question so much, and there's also a comment. Well, there are 2 comments. One says that persons are stepping away because they need JMMB as a selling agent, right? And another one said that there are millions sitting at JMMB waiting for this IPO. So the people want to spend their money, and they want to know, are you going to allow them to do it through that platform?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So the truth is, we've been in discussions with multiple selling agents. JMMB is one of those as well. But we are awaiting final sign-off from them, because we have to give them the opportunity to run it through their due diligence process. So we would have onboarded a selling agent today. A formal notice will go out in terms of who that selling agent is. So persons with a brokerage account through that selling agent may apply. There are 3 other selling agents that we are in the process of having the discussions with, and they're going through their formal proceedings, and JMMB is one of those. But I'd go a step further to say, even if it is that you have a JMMB or any other broker account, you're still able to apply for the IPO using goipo.jncb.com. The only difference is that when you go to the website to apply, you'll click all other investor and enter the details from your other brokerage account, and you'll still be able to apply even though you don't have an NCB Cap Markets brokerage account. But yeah, that has been a question that we've been getting. You're able to apply without having a Cap Markets brokerage account, and we are in discussions to have the approval of the different selling agents.
All right, thank you so much for that, Alex. We just needed to get that sorted because the people needed to know. Clearly they needed to know. All right, so let's jump back into the operational side of things. Well, more of the use of the IPO proceeds, right? There has been commendation about the fact that there is not much debt, so it speaks to the management of the company and how well things are run. So kudos to you on that. Congratulations. But the question is, over the next 1 to 2 years, what are some of the tangible changes that investors can expect from the use of proceeds from this
All right,
IPO?
maybe I should jump in, and it speaks to the testament of the parent company. When we bought Woodcats back in 2018, we saw that there was a need for major shift at capitalization. And for the first 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 100% of all the profits that was made was reinvested into the company. And hence the reason why many of the capacity would have changed, many of the fleet would have been modernized, many of the machinery would have been modernized, where we were able to employ different levels of staffing. I mean, when you look through the prospectus, you notice that the caliber of the team, many of them has first degree, master's degree, which means that there has to be many things that would have been required to attract the caliber of staff. And for Peter to really shore up his supply chain, so that one, availability, and two, diversification. I always say to Peter, one of the problems with the Derman company, it likes to borrow on the parent company level, but doesn't want to take from the subsidiary level. And it has benefits. And the fact is, hence the reason why you see such a clean balance sheet. Within the last 2 or 3 years, many of the borrowing through the small amount of borrowing through Woodcats is really used to upgrade fleet and to do other things. What you expect going forward for us to push that waste management approach to improve, so that we'll be able to at least bring down our costs further, so that we'll be able to compete within the wider space beyond the corridors of Jamaica, so that we'll be able to attract people who will be able to use different technology, given robotics, etc., based on the new technology within that industry, and also for us to expand and grow and be more competitive or be more cost effective to our customer. That's what is expected from us.
All right. I hope that is clear to everyone. But as you are planning to execute on this strategy, there are also risks. So I am actually happy that I see this question in the chat from Gospel 761. The question is, what are your company's top 2 execution risks over the next 12 to 18 months, and how are you actively mitigating them?
One is our supply chain. And how we deal with our supply chain is to mitigate that, is to really diversify our suppliers. When you look at the wood industry in Jamaica, we get about 15% tops from the local industry, which means that we'll have to import. And as a result of that, within the last few years, we would have diversified not only our suppliers in different geographic regions, but we would have used different approaches to even deepen the approaches to which we go to the market. We would have improved our logistics. Is also a big issue, because we would have felt that during COVID, and what we would have done is that we would have used different methodology to bring products to the market from different marketplaces. Therefore, it reduced the risk of increasing our costs if we'll have to depend on repurchase of lumber or raw materials here directly in Jamaica. Another element is our working capital, and one of the reasons of why we are going to the market is to improve our working capital, so that we'll be able to buy much better and for longer term based on the market and the market's world international prices, so that at least we are in a space whereby, one, we always availability given the demands, two, we have diversification of supply, and given the logistic channel that we have just in time in some instances, given what we must do. And the last one, I think, is to really look back at our insurance, because the business that we are in requires us to be insured, and insured at different levels, and it is at that different levels that we have to look at from a risk management framework and build the necessary anchorage around the business so that we can be protected.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. It's clear that the strategy and the different angles have been thought through, so I do appreciate that. So we talked about export as an option and as something that you're actively planning for, looking into. What do you estimate, how large do you estimate that market to be, or that opportunity to be, and what kind of split are you expecting between the export market and the local market in, say, the next year? Peter, do you want to take that?
We're looking within the next year, which is 2026. What we're looking to do is scale a business. So
2026, Peter, 2027.
For 2026, we're not going to be hitting the export market directly. Well, in 2026, we're going to be scaling the business. So at least in 2027, we're looking at 2027 beyond, and another 3-5 years, we're looking at about 20% of our revenue to be from abroad.
Okay, so it's a 3 to 5 year timeline.
And one of the reasons why you'll have to do that is that efficiency is what allows you to be able to compete internationally. Mm-hmm. We would have seen what it takes, given that our affiliation with CHEP, the international pallet manufacturer, which we are their representative here in Jamaica. And as a result of that, we would have been taking some of the learnings from that affiliation. The other thing that we're doing our background work with working with manufacturers, looking at manufacturers in different Caribbean countries, Barbados, Eastern Caribbean, to see what their pallet costs are. And based on that, that will allow us to, one, to scale operation based on the levels of machine, the levels of automation that we know we must implement so that we'll be able to compete. And hence the reason why Peter spoke to the 3 to 5 years.
All right. Again, that is smart stewardship. So there was a question from Earl Stewart, and I'm hoping that the line of questioning leading up to now has answered it. But Earl, you can let me know if your question was answered. It said, how do you plan to grow each year on only pallets and pay dividends each year? Now, we know it's not only pallets because that has been made clear, but let's focus on the latter part, because I think you would have spoken about the growth plans and how you're planning to diversify. But in terms of the payment of dividend, what is the dividend policy? And well, Alex, you can probably share what the dividend policy is, and then Peter or Ian, you can feel free to chime in terms of how you will be executing on that policy.
Yeah, so the dividend policy is not less than 25% of the distributable profit. This is always subject to the approval of the board and the need of the company in terms of the liquidity and reinvesting those funds back into the company. So I think it's pretty attractive of it being not less than 25%, and also in line with where we see other junior market IPOs are putting their dividend policy.
Okay, thank you for that. So who will be taking the next part of the question, Ian, or you'll take it?
Well, look at it. What I'll say to you, it is important that the major shareholders will pay a dividend on its capital, and the only way that can be achieved is through dividends. The stewardship of the directors to ensure that the policies and the strategies are implemented efficiently and effectively in a way to reward the owners of capital. And given what we would have seen in the prospectus, it is important that this be achieved. Woodcats is a company that is properly run, it's properly structured, and with the additional capital, it will allow for greater working capital to allow it to grow and to churn the necessary profit and cash And I don't think it is unrealistic that the 25%, which has been agreed to within the prospect, is not rewarded to the minimum of 25% that is agreed to within the prospectus is not rewarded to the shareholders on an annual basis. I think we have very learned directors, and I think they are about ensuring that the commitment that has been made, given the fact that the company is expected to grow, will be realized and be implemented.
All right, thank you so much for that. While I have you here, Ian, can you also address Philip's question? How do minority shareholders of DCL benefit from the sale of the asset?
What I'll say, the decision for the sale of shares by Detail in Woodcats is specifically geared towards two things: to reduce some of the debt which are used to acquire companies such as Woodcats. The company intends to be deleveraging, and this is one of the approach that is required to deleverage so that it has the space to be able to pay dividends to shareholders over the upcoming period.
Okay. All right. So, Philip, I hope that answers your question. I want to now take us to the next question from Jamaica Politics. And I feel like we're on the same page with this one as well. Woodcats has been around for over 20 years, and this is the first time we're hearing the name as retailers, right, as the general public. So what are the plans going forward to make Woodcats a household name and brand? And is that even an aspiration? Is that something important to Woodcats?
That is very fundamental. It's very important to us, right? Well, after today, I think the whole Jamaica will know who Woodcat is and what we do. So this is an appropriate start, right? And we'll be putting products out there, and Woodcat will be all over Jamaica. Right?
In fact, you see Woodcat's product through its Summerline brand of wood mulches, etc., different garden store. You don't even know who the manufacturers of that product is, because we are not B2C, we are B2B. The fact is we are not a consumer direct driven organization, but we'll ensure that our PR through the different things we do with the necessary public relations is aligned to, so that Woodcat's name can be more resonated within the market space.
All right. And I mean, for me, I have that creative side, that decorative side. So I see palettes and I see decor, right? So immediately I'm like, how can I get some? Immediately, that's what I thought.
And you see orchid baskets, and you see many different things. I mean, when you look at some of the gift baskets that are out there, the wooden trays are made by Woodcats. There's so many things that Woodcat does that people don't really understand the level of diversity of this company. And I think our objective is really to even reduce the import bill of the country even more through some of the product substitutions that we know that we can make to the market.
And will be more visible in the entertainment space as far as decors are concerned.
I like that.
And Renee, and if I just could pipe in here, I'm not sure if you were at the Jamaica Stock Exchange conference as well. There are some beautifully designed plant boxes on each table. Woodcats, those were designed by Woodcats as well. So.
Yes, I actually just made the connection when Peter said more in the event space. I'm like, yes, I know I saw those crates at the conference. So yes, absolutely. I can see that coming to fruition indeed. So thank you for that. You'll be hearing from me. So the next question, do you have any plans to start fabricating building materials like ply? That's interesting. That's cards for cash.
That's an open
Can you
space.
repeat that one?
And that's a wood-related product. We don't want to speak to some things which are, we are a manufacturer, but what we'll say is that where we see opportunities within the wood space and wood-related space, Woodcats is going to capitalize on that.
All right. And I think a follow-up to that is from Kirk Gibson saying, and I think the question is, do you plan to make DIY furniture like IKEA? Right. So I take it that may be a similar response.
No, we are making furniture at this point in time. But again, furniture and the costs for import substitution, you have to look on that and to see which of the space within the furniture market that you wish to be in. Peter spoke earlier about the entertainment space, given the durability and the reusability and the fact that it requires specific movements on an ongoing basis. So we would have chose that we'll be in the wooden / garden furniture business, etc., as well as we're exploring the possibility of looking at the basis for specific beds, etc., for that industry. It's something that we're looking at. It's something that we feel that there is an opportunity within the market space for it, and it requires some scaling. And what we want to ensure that when we get into those, we're doing some testing on it as we speak, but when we get into it, it means that we'd have the right machinery and the competent staff that will allow us to compete effectively, fiercely, and be able to produce the levels of output that is required based on the studies that we would have been doing.
All right. Thank you for that detailed answer. We have a question that seems to be a burning one for Ben Foyd, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The question is, how do you explain to potential investors the shares sold to Priceman Limited, which is owned by a director for a little over $1 million, that is now going to be worth close to $150 million?
All right, I'll take that. And it's not only Princeman. There are different sweat equity that has been placed in the growth of Woodcats over a number of years. And a result of those sweat equity, those shares would have been allocated from the outset as to how those shares would have been allocated and has been allocated. What you're seeing now is because of how the shares is now being valued. That's why it is seen now as a huge sum. But the fact is, 2007 or 8 years ago, that's not what the value would have been at that time. And it is the same thing for Princeman. It's the same thing for Dougridge, which are some of the sweat equity directors, internal directors, and general managers who would have put the work in order to get the company to this point whereby we'll be able to place it on the market at the valuation. And the valuation is not based on the directors internally. It is based on the valuation from the experts, which see the numbers, which were driven by the work and the work that has been done by directors and the general manager and leadership of Woodcats.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think generally speaking, it is important that we, as investors, appreciate that those who have invested in companies while they were still private, while it was still private equity, whether it's sweat equity or financial investment in the companies, they are investors too. So they want to see their returns at some point. They would like to see a return on their investment as well. So it is not unusual to see an investor taking profit. So as a follow-up to what you would have just shared, Ian, Ben Foyd is saying that the timeline in the prospectus says the shares were issued 1 week before the prospectus was released.
And that was only done because it was at that time the shares were split. Because prior to that, it was only 1,000 shares. And within that 1,000 shares, those shares would have been allocated. But for you to get the company to where it is in order to be making the shares available to the public, there had to be dilution and costing, etc. So that could have been done in 2018, but there was no need for it to be done in 2018. When it was done a few weeks before the prospectus, is because it is at that time it would have been required for the shares to be split, transfer, and divvy based on the policies of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the FSC, and also the Companies Office. Without that being done, there could have been no shares being offered at this point in time, even to the general public.
All right, thank you for that. So let's jump back into the other questions. Alex, I'll just ask you to address again on the application side. There are a few questions about stating challenges with applications, particularly for JMMB customers. So Otis says there seems to be an issue with adding your JCSD account on the Go IPO side for JMMB customers. He's been trying and getting an error, and I would have seen a few others indicating that they were having the same issue. And of course, we're seeing as well other questions. I have JMMB as a broker on Monday. When you go public, can I apply via JMMB? So I'll just give you an opportunity to address what the issue that person's maybe having right now and what the resolution is.
Okay, so we were aware of an issue earlier yesterday. The IT team would have confirmed that that issue has been resolved. So I'll ask if they could reapply, so they shouldn't be having any issue now. But if it is that they are still having an issue, they can reach out to any NCB Capital Markets wealth advisor. They can also call NCB at 960-7108, and then somebody would be able to assist them with that application process.
All right, thank you, Alex. Peter, we're back to you. If a sawmill goes out of operation, this is from Jamaica Politics TV, do you house the local talent to repair? And also, do you house parts and inventory for these machines?
Absolutely. We have a repair team, and we post members across the locations. So we have a repair maintenance that's about at least six to seven persons, and they are skilled in different areas, from welders to mechanics. So all the elements of the business that would need both reactive and preventative maintenance for would be 100% covered. And of course, we do have adequate spare for all our machines and saws. So yes, we are very good that way.
Awesome. So let us continue with you, Peter. What specific KPIs do you track weekly that tells you the business is getting healthier?
Production output for sure, efficiency, machine downtime is critical, especially at our sawmills. So those are the key components. We're looking at production outputs on a daily, weekly basis. Machine availability hours, that's critical, and generally those are the key KPIs that we measure on a week by week basis, not day by day, not month by month, but week by week.
And we're tracking to budget in terms of production and profitability.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Of course. So because that is important, especially as you are going public, and that will be certainly a measure for all your investors. Speaking of which, Jamaica Politics is asking, how is Woodcats planning on cutting operational expenses going forward to increase shareholder value?
Well, we definitely plan to be way more efficient. Um, we with the IPO money, I hope well we will be successful. We'll be looking at further mechanizing, so we can cut some cost layers there, right? So we'll definitely looking at running a more leaner and a more efficient operation.
In addition to, it's not only operation expenses that we intend to cut. Our ability to procure will ensure that our cost of sales, our direct manufacturing expenses are getting more efficient. We intend to look at ways in which we can improve our energy cost. Solar is a big thing, or we look at many different ways to which we can improve, especially our utility costs. We look at how we look at our fleet management. So there are many other things that given improve working capital, that you'll be in a better position to be managing more effectively based on just availability of cash.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And interestingly enough, Peter Shamoy asked, if Woodcats does not meet the 750 required to be listed, what would be the next step for the company in terms of your plan for growth?
It would set us back somewhat, but we just have to continue pushing out the resource that we would have available to us. So yes, we would still grow, but not at the pace that we hope to grow at now.
All right.
But I'll tell you, with the team that we have at NCB Capital Market, and based on the work that they would have put in, we are never in doubt that we'll not be able to raise the funds based on, one, the structure of the facility, the solidness of the company, the use to which the funds will be put in, the pricing of the share, the offer, given the levels of the valuation and what the return, the initial return that there is to investor. We feel that is solid enough to facilitate us going over the line. And I think we're working with a partner that we are confident that has the wherewithal to be able to take us across the line. So
Yeah. I do second that, and just to add that we would have been doing a lot of work even before the IPO started, doing our no-name market read and trying to get a better understanding of what type of stock investors are interested in. And when we would have been building the book, we would have received a significant interest, even without persons knowing what type of company it is or what the name is, but just looking at the numbers itself. So we really believe that it's a very solid offer. Even the investor briefings and the different interviews that we would have been doing, and looking at your prospectus review as well, and the comments that we would have been seeing, we're seeing a lot of interest there. So we strongly believe that we will be over that 750 mark.
All right. Thank you for that. While you're with us spotlighted here, Alex, the question from Kirk is, has NCB underwritten the offer?
Oh, no. So NCB has not underwritten the offer. The offer is being done on a best efforts basis. But as you can see within how the share pool is structured, there is a strategic investor pool, which is for about half of the offer. And a portion of that will be NCB portfolio. So NCB will be investing in the offer, even though it wasn't underwritten. When we were also doing our initial due diligence, because of how attractive the offer is and the indicative interest that we would have been receiving, there wasn't any need to underwrite the offer because of how attractive it was. So our portfolios will be participating. And at the end of the day, NCB, based on our risk management framework, we don't put our name or bring a transaction to market that we're not confident in. And this is one that we're very confident in.
That is good to hear. So we have a few more questions and a few more minutes. So let us go through. I see a question here from Kirk again, and he's asking, has Woodcats thought about wood treatment for a next revenue stream or supply the energy sector with treated wooden poles? Maybe more of a suggestion than a question, I guess.
We'll look at it. Anything to do with wood, we are always willing to look at, and we'll explore.
Yes.
But we are currently not, but we'll explore.
All right. Another question for you, Peter or Ian. Should investors in your company expect to see quarterly investor briefings going forward?
Well, what I'll say to you is that whatever is required for us, in addition to the quarterly financial filings that is required, we'll have to do what is necessary to update our investors as to, one, the performance of the company, and two, as to what we're doing based on the mandate that we would have received, given the strategy that we will be employing. So I think it is something that we hadn't thought about doing a quarterly investor briefing, but that's something that I think we could possibly adopt going forward.
Yes, that is highly recommended here at Learn Grow Invest, and we are happy to facilitate. It has proven to do well with those quarterly briefings, those quarterly communications with your shareholders. So, more questions are rolling in. So let's get to those as well. We got through that one. Okay, so Shamoy was responding to your answer about possibly not making that 750, and the comment says growth with or without meeting required amount. I respect that, and I'm confident that Woodcats International and the team at NCB Cap Markets are capable of meeting the required amounts. You guys have my full support, and that is always beautiful to hear.
Thank you, Shamoy.
Thank you.
All right. The Ben Floyd is asking, how soon can we expect the company will be back to market via an APO to raise the remaining allowable capital for the junior market companies? Ben Floyd, do you know something we don't know?
That's not something that has been on the card right now. So I think what we can say is that where we see that there's a need for capital for growth, we'll use the most cost-effective and the most appropriate way to really capitalize the company. And for now, that's not something with respect to the APR or another capital raise that is being considered or is on the card at this time.
All right, thank you for that. Alex, it looks like you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, but Ian perfectly answered the question, so I'll leave it at that.
All right, no problem. Thank you. So I don't think there's a pronunciation to this name, but I'll just say BGLC for now. Says, has any empirical research been conducted to quantify the demand for Woodcats products, particularly market size and growth potential? And they followed up to say a key concern among investors is whether the current product offering provides sufficient scope for scalable growth.
All right, so I'll start with one of that. When you look at exports in Jamaica, not one pallet. Well, let's start from manufacturing. A manufacturing company is not able to run its line without a pallet. That's one. Two, a manufacturing company that is exporting is not able to export without certain specific standards, which is treatment of pallets or another method. We prize ourselves as the king in these two areas. And if you look at also the efficiencies to which where we are moving scraps and waste to revenue, it will speak to where we want to go. In terms of a demand, we would have seen, based on the PIOG, what the projected demand exports have been, and we would have used some of that data based on what is available to really project where we want to be. We know for sure that in other markets, there is a demand for many of our products. However, the demand will come at a price. And what our intention is really to do a deeper dive into these other markets in order to really scope out what is the extent of the opportunity that we can capture and turn into revenue. So there's not many physical reports that are done internal or commissioned by Woodcats, but based on many of the data that is available within the market and other markets, we're confident that what we're doing and how we plan to grow will give us a level of quantification that we have in order to grow the numbers that we have within our growth strategy and our prospectus.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Ian. So we have two questions that are more operational. Peter, I'll ask you to take these. One is your company insured against potential fatality? This should be fatality. And they're asking, this is Jamaica Politics asking, because of the sawmill that you operate.
I think that's just a single word answer, and the answer is yes.
Thank you for that.
You're fully
And while you're here, and that's important because lives certainly matter. Gospel 761 is asking, how many days does it take on average to convert inventory into cash, and what is your target over the next year?
I don't have that number in hand.
But remember though, Peter,
into cash.
But remember what we do, we seek raw material the most cost-effective way. So our conversion in terms of days many times are dependent upon the levels of inventory and the approach to which we would put inventory purchased into production. Because there are times that the opportunity arises for you to buy lumber locally because you know that you're going into a rainy season. And when you get into a rainy season, there are 3 or 4 months that you may not be able to get any local lumber, which is your most cost-effective lumber. So your carrying costs to that in terms of days, may extend, but it is that cost that you know you must undertake so that availability is at hand. There may be the fact that, for example, pallets made for companies that requires the use of heavy pallets and heavy lumber. It means that your carrying cost for those may take more than 30 days or 45 days. But the pricing to which those carrying costs are done ensure that you are not carrying these inventory at a loss. So there are many different. It is not like flour or rice that you buy and your intention is to have 2 or 3 or 4 turns of that inventory within a month. When you think about wood and lumber, there are different approaches given the nature to which you're able to secure and procure these raw materials.
Understood. Thank you for that. So we have 2 more questions, and then I will ask the team to share a few last comments before we go. So we have a question from the instructional architect who is asking, how has the company been doing in the other non-pallet products that is offered? We would have spoken about the 300,000 pallets per year, and she's asking, how are you doing in the other areas?
Okay, I'll take that one, Ian. The 300,000 pallets that we're doing is a mix of new pallets and repair and reconditioned pallets. As it is now, pallets is our core business, as it is now. So we're getting about 70 to 75% of our revenue from wooden pallets. There are the products, plastic pallets, slip sheets, all the different line of furniture that we are trying to push now, right? The intent is to, within the next 3 to 5 years, to have have at least 50% of our revenue from non-pallet sales, while not losing any of our pallet market. Right. So hence we're gonna build out further on the products that non-pallet products, and we are going to diversify further to ensure that we have a split of at least 50% from non-pallet revenue without losing any of our pallet sales.
All right, thank you for that. I think she wanted to hear about some of the other products, but I would encourage you to go to rewind when we're done, because we did speak about the diversification that is currently happening and what is to come. So the last question, I'm going to give Alex the floor again from the audience. So one person, this is Uptown for Life, 876, says, I have an NCB bank account, but I do not have an NCB investment account. When using the Go IPO platform, I did not select all other investments because I have an NCB account. So I selected NCB online, and I believe they're asking if it can still work.
Yes, it can still work. So just logging with your NCBJ login credentials to Go IPO, and it will work. The process is pretty simple, and you should be able to access the application from there using your NCBJ online credentials.
Okay, thanks. And following that, Romario is asking, or is first stating that he applied today, but doesn't have an NCB investment account. He was told that the amount should be transferred to the account on the prospectus, but how would he get his refund if necessary?
Yeah, so throughout the application process, there was a section that asks for your refund mandate, which essentially is the account that you want your refunds to go to. So whichever account you entered as your refund mandate, that will be where the funds will be refunded to if we have an oversubscription.
All right. Thank you for that, Alex. And with that, I will be giving the floor to both Peter and Ian for a little bit to answer the question, what type of investor should be looking to invest in Woodcats?
All right. What I will say is that I do not have the expertise. Hello?
Yes, we're here. You can go ahead.
I do not have the expertise to give investment advice. I leave that to the experts. But what I'll say is that whenever you're building a portfolio, I think you should look to see what the composition are. You should look to see how much you intend to invest within different asset class. And within the asset class, you should look for specifics that you as an investor think will give you the desired returns. I'm of the view, based on the fundamentals that I've seen in Woodcat, that this is an extremely solid company based on so many things. One, monopoly in so many different areas. Two, the ability to grow revenue sustained over a number of years. Three is its ability to reinvest its revenue, its profit over the year into improving the company. Its ability to increase its fixed assets so that it can be sustained, and the fact that it has little or no debt. And as well as the fact that it has a plan in order to really to basically grow the company in different spheres going forward. For me, those are fundamentals, and that is one of the reasons why I think that, I would, if I would invest, or I'm going to be investing in Woodcats for the long haul, because it fits many of the perfect spaces that I see as an investor, and an investor who is in it for the long haul.
Thank you so much for that, Ian. Peter, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would say Woodcats is the perfect company for anybody to invest now. The financial record, especially over the past 5 years, speaks wonders. right? But they didn't happen by accident. It's the deliberate intent by our staff, led by myself, with guidance from Mr. Kelly and the executive at the head office, right? We have a very dedicated staff, and we go beyond the call of duty. So our numbers are not by accident. It's by how we serve our customer and the quality of products that we put out there, and that we stand by what we put out there. So it's a solid company for you to invest in, and we're here to protect your investment.
Thank you so much, Peter. And Alex, as the licensed financial advisor among us, what would you say to the question of what type of investor should be looking to invest in Woodcats? And you can surely share any other closing remarks that you may have for the audience.
Okay, so at NCB Capital Markets, we always encourage investors to have a very diversified portfolio. And we believe that Woodcats will be a resilient stock because it's like a hidden gem. It's an unseen essential. Sell products that is needed. We saw even after Hurricane Melissa, in terms of the roads being impassable and the fact that goods couldn't go to different parts of the island and the effect that that would have had on the country. So pallets is essential to move those type of goods. And having a company in your portfolio that is resilient to shocks is very important. And we would have seen that with Woodcats, even over the last 5 years, where there were issues with COVID and shipping supply issues, we would have seen that over the last 5 years, they would have increased their revenue, they would have doubled their revenue, and also increased profitability by over 700%. Ian would have also mentioned earlier that there's little to no debt on the balance sheet, so the debt to equity ratio is very strong. When we're looking at the peers, the junior market peers that are currently listed, when we saw their average return on equity, Woodcats would have outperformed their average return on equity. So even though it's not publicly listed as yet, even though Woodcats haven't received the benefit of its IPO proceeds as yet, its ratios would have been outperforming some of its peers that are already listed on the stock exchange. So we believe that it's a very strong company, very clean numbers. The growth prospects look very good in terms of the diversification and the efficiency. And we believe that these would translate to improved shareholder value. So we always encourage investors to have a diversified portfolio, have some resilient stocks in your portfolio. And we believe that Woodcats would be one of those resilient stocks to add to your portfolio. I'd just like to remind everyone that don't wait until last minute to apply. Please apply very early. We're opening on February 2nd. The expected closing date is February 20, but we do have the right to close the offer earlier. We've been getting a lot of interest. We're working on the selling agents, and notice will come out about the next selling agent. If you need additional information on the offer, please visit woodcatsipo.com. You may also visit goipo.jncb.com. You can visit any NCB branch and speak to an NCB Capital Markets Wealth Advisor. You can also send an email to ncbcapinfo@jncb.com, or you can call us at 960-7108 for any additional information that you need.
Thank you so much, Alex. And with that, we have come to the end of our Q&A session. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our participants today, Ian Kelly, who is the CEO of Dermont Trading, Peter Douglas, who is the GM of Woodcats International, and Alex Johnson, who is the manager of origination and structuring at NCB Cap Markets. These gentlemen have answered the questions that have been posed here, and in addition to that, there is an opportunity for you to see even more through what was shared in NCB's broker report that came out, I believe it was yesterday or today?
This morning, earlier this morning. So
right.
Yes, we released our research report earlier this morning, and I'm aware that other brokers are completing their research report as well. Our report did have a buy recommendation and a potential upside of 18%. So it's a good read to better understand from a research perspective, an independent research perspective, what the attractiveness of the offer is.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for that input. So there is the information available as we prepare for the opening on February 2nd, which is Monday. There's not a lot of time left. So please do take a read of the prospectus, take a read of the broker report, and look out for the additional brokers who may be coming on or who will be coming on, as well as take the opportunity to check out the Go IPO platform to make your purchase if it is that you have already decided that this is a stock for your portfolio. Thank you once again for your time. Thank you for participating. Your questions were excellent and insightful, and we appreciate that. So once again, I am Renee McDonald, CEO of Learn, Grow, Invest and Investor Relations Lead. It was my pleasure to be your host today. Have a great afternoon.
Take care.
Yeah.
Most of the products you